Good evening, all, and welcome back to Dark Fears. Tonight, we journey into the frozen heart of Canada's forgotten backroads, a place of isolated small towns, endless wilderness, and long stretches of road where help does not reach. Hidden along these routes are 7 of the most disturbing and terrifying true horror stories ever reported. Accounts that expose what happens when travelers stray beyond the last safe mile marker. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to Dark Fears for daily horror content that will keep you up at night. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the darkness calls. Now, let us step into the shadows of Canada's backroads, where civilization ends and terror begins. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and this happened to me when I was 27, driving alone through northern Ontario in late October. I was heading to Thunder Bay for a temporary forestry contract, the kind of job you take because the money is good and you don't ask many questions. I grew up around highways and logging roads, so I wasn't afraid of empty stretches of land. If anything, I preferred them. That night, the GPS lost signal just after sunset. No warning, just a blank screen and a soft electronic chime like it was apologizing. I told myself it didn't matter. One road in, one road out. That's what the locals at the last gas station had said, their smiles tight, eyes tired. The forest closed in as darkness fell, the trees standing too close to the asphalt like they were leaning forward to listen. Then I saw it. Mile marker 61. Old, bent, reflective paint peeling. 10 minutes later, I passed mile marker 61 again. I slowed down, heart thudding, convincing myself I was tired. But the road ahead felt wrong, like it had decided something about me that I hadn't agreed to yet. I checked my speed, slowed to exactly 60, and focused on the road ahead. No turns, no intersections. Just a straight stretch of cracked asphalt disappearing into the trees. I told myself mile markers can be placed oddly, that maybe I'd misunderstood the distance. Still, a cold pressure settled behind my eyes, the kind that comes before a panic attack. The radio crackled to life without warning. Not music, just static layered with something that almost sounded like breathing. I turned the knob down, then off, but the sound lingered for a second longer than it should have, like the car itself was reluctant to let go. That's when I noticed the smell. Damp earth, rotting leaves. It seeped into the car even though the windows were sealed tight. Ahead, my headlights caught movement near the tree line. I slowed again, squinting. A shape stepped back between the trunks, tall, thin, wrong in its proportions. I never saw a face, just the impression of something standing upright where nothing should have been. Moments later, the reflective paint flashed again. Mile marker 61. This time, there were fresh scratches around the post, as if something had clawed at it recently. I told myself to keep driving. Stopping out here felt like a mistake I wouldn't recover from. I pressed the accelerator gently, but the road seemed longer now, stretching in a way that made distance meaningless. The forest on both sides blurred into a single black wall, broken only by the rhythmic flash of my headlights. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. No signal, no bars, but a notification still came through. Unknown number. You already passed this. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. There was no way anyone knew where I was. No way anyone could be watching. Yet the feeling of being observed crept over me, heavy and intimate, like something sitting in the back seat just out of sight. Then the engine coughed. Once, twice. The dashboard lights flickered, and the radio snapped back on by itself. This time, the static formed words. Slow, stretched, whispered through interference. Turn around. My hands shook on the steering wheel as the road curved slightly for the first time all night. Relief surged until the headlights revealed the same bent metal post ahead. Mile marker 61. Only now, it was closer to the road and angled toward me. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly, gravel crunching beneath the tires, and for a moment, everything went silent. No radio, no engine, just my breathing, loud and uneven, fogging up the windshield. I sat there, frozen, afraid that if I moved, even an inch, I'd prove that whatever was happening was real. That's when I saw the footprints. They emerged from the tree line on the right, deep impressions pressed into the dirt and leaves. Too long, too narrow. And they weren't random. They formed a clear path across the road, ending right in front of my hood. A soft thud echoed from the roof of the car. Then another. Something shifted its weight above me, metal creaking as if fingers, or worse, were gripping the edges. I squeezed my eyes shut, whispering every prayer I could remember, my mind screaming at my body to move. The engine roared back to life on its own. I didn't question it. I hit the gas and sped forward, not daring to look up. In the rearview mirror, for just a second, I saw it standing by the mile marker. Tall, pale, smiling too wide, watching me leave. I don't remember how long I drove after that. Minutes stretched into something heavier, thicker, like time itself had slowed to watch me panic. My speedometer crept past 80, then 90, but the forest didn't thin. The road didn't change, no exits, no signs, just darkness swallowing my headlights a few feet at a time. My phone rang. Not vibrated, rang. An old-school ringtone I hadn't used in years. The screen lit up with my mother's name. She'd been dead for 3 years. My chest tightened as I stared at the screen, every instinct screaming not to answer. The ringing stopped on its own. A second later, a voicemail notification appeared. I hadn't declined the call. I hadn't touched the phone. Against my better judgment, I played it. All I heard at first was wind. Then my mother's voice, faint and strained. "Ethan, you missed the turn. It doesn't like that." The message ended with a wet clicking sound, like a tongue pulling back from teeth. Ahead, the road dipped downward, and there it was again, waiting patiently. Mile marker 61. Only now, it was cracked straight down the middle. I screamed and swerved, barely missing the marker as I veered onto the shoulder. The car jolted violently, tires biting into loose gravel before settling at a crooked angle. My heart hammered so hard it hurt, each beat echoing in my ears. I killed the engine. Silence rushed in, deep and unnatural, like the world had been muted. The air felt heavier now, pressing against my chest. That's when I noticed the forest wasn't moving anymore. No wind, no rustling leaves. Even the fog seemed frozen in place. A knock came from the driver's side window. Slow, polite. I didn't look at first. I couldn't. My hands were locked around the steering wheel, knuckles white, vision blurring with tears. The knock came again, closer to the glass this time, followed by a soft scraping sound, as if something was dragging its nails downward. Then a voice spoke, inches from my ear, even though the window was still closed. "You stopped where you shouldn't have." The glass fogged from the outside, and a shape pressed against it, stretching the reflection into something barely human. Behind it, in the dark, mile marker 61 stood upright again. Perfectly whole. I don't remember opening the door. One moment I was gripping the wheel, the next I was standing on the road, cold seeping through my boots. The air smelled sharper out here, like iron and wet stone. My car idled behind me, headlights washing over the asphalt and the trees, but it already felt distant, unreal. The thing by the window was gone. In its place stood a man-shaped outline near the mile marker. It wore the suggestion of clothing, dark, loose, hanging wrong on a frame that bent at angles no body should. Its head tilted as I took a step closer, curiosity pulling me forward despite every warning screaming in my skull. "You keep coming back," it said, its voice layered, like several people speaking at once through a long tunnel. I tried to speak, but my throat locked up. The forest around us leaned inward, trunks creaking softly, like they were listening. The figure gestured toward the marker. Carved into the metal now were dozens of names, etched deep and overlapping. Some were old and faded, some were fresh. At the bottom, scratched clumsily, was Ethan Caldwell. I stumbled backward, heart racing, every nerve screaming that I didn't belong here. The thing didn't chase me. It didn't need to. It simply watched, head tilted, as if my fear was enough to sustain it. "You don't leave?" it said calmly. "You pass through." The meaning hit me all at once. The marker wasn't measuring distance. It was marking people. I turned and ran for the car, lungs burning, vision narrowing. The forest seemed to stretch, the road pulling away from me like a cruel joke. I reached the driver's door just as the headlights flickered, plunging everything into near darkness. For a split second, I felt hands on my shoulders, not gripping, just guiding. Then I was inside the car again, engine roaring, tires screaming as I tore down the road. This time, the forest finally broke apart. Lights appeared ahead, a real highway, real signs. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. I never saw mile marker 61 again. But sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes with no signal, and a message appears. "You're almost back." I told myself it was over, that whatever had happened belonged to that stretch of road and nowhere else. I finished the contract, avoided night driving, and never went north again unless I had to. For a while, that was enough. Then the changes started. Road signs near my apartment began to look wrong, slightly bent, lettering faded in ways I didn't remember. One morning, on my walk to work, I noticed a temporary construction marker at the corner of my street. White metal, reflective paint, the number 61 scrawled across it in black. I stood there far too long, staring, convincing myself it was a coincidence, that numbers repeat, that fear makes patterns out of nothing. That night, my car alarm went off at exactly 2:11 a.m. When I looked out the window, my headlights were on. I don't remember turning them on. In the glow, at the end of the street, someone stood perfectly still. Tall, thin, head tilted. Beside them, hammered into the pavement, was a marker I had never seen before. It leaned slightly toward my building. Waiting, I moved the next week. Different city, different province. I sold the car, changed my number, and stopped driving altogether. I told no one the real reason. How do you explain that a road followed you home? For years, nothing happened. Life dulled the edges of the memory. I almost believed I'd escaped. Last month, I flew back to Ontario for a funeral. Renting a car felt safe, controlled, familiar roads, civilization everywhere. On the drive back to the airport, traffic slowed unexpectedly. Orange cones funneled us down to a single lane. A construction worker waved cars through, face hidden behind a reflective mask. As I passed him, he lowered the sign he was holding. Mile 61. Slow. Our eyes met through the visor. He smiled too wide. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, lighting up without signal. "You passed through again," the message read. "Next time, you stay." The lane opened. Traffic moved on. In the mirror, the worker was gone. But the sign remained, still counting. My name is Lucas Merrick, and this happened when I was 34 during a winter delivery run through rural Canada. I worked for a small medical courier service, the kind that moves lab samples and emergency supplies between towns most people forget exist. The pay was decent, but the hours were brutal and the routes were worse. That night, I was assigned a backroad shortcut the dispatchers swore would save me 40 minutes. No streetlights, no traffic cams. Just a thin gray line cutting through snow-covered wilderness. I didn't like it, but deadlines don't care about instincts. The snow started falling harder an hour in, thick flakes swallowing my headlights. Every direction looked the same: white ground, black trees, endless dark. My radio kept cutting in and out, replacing music with low pops and static. Then I heard my name, clear as day. Lucas. I froze, foot hovering over the brake. The radio display glitched, letters scrambling before settling into a single word. Listen. I laughed nervously, blaming exhaustion. Radios pick up weird signals out here. That's what I told myself. Then the road beneath my tires vibrated, almost like it was responding. I turned the radio off. The voice didn't stop. It came from everywhere at once. Beneath the hum of the engine, inside the walls of the van, vibrating up through the steering wheel. Not loud, not aggressive, just patient. "You're early," it said. I pulled over hard, tires crunching into packed snow, breath fogging the windshield. My hands shook as I stepped out, boots sinking slightly into the frozen shoulder. The night was impossibly quiet. No wind, no falling snow, like the world had paused to hear what I'd do next. "Hello?" I called, instantly regretting it. The sound of my voice didn't echo. It was swallowed. Then the road creaked. Not the van, not the trees, the road itself. A long, slow groan ran beneath my feet, asphalt shifting like something stretching after a long sleep. The yellow center line ahead shimmered, bending subtly toward me. My phone buzzed with no signal. A single message appeared on the screen. "Don't ask it questions." Behind me, the van doors unlocked on their own. And the road leaned closer. I ignored the message and got back into the van, slamming the door harder than necessary. The locks clicked shut immediately, like they'd been waiting for me. I started driving again, slower now, every sense stretched thin. The snow resumed falling the moment the tires rolled, thick and heavy, erasing my tracks almost instantly. The voice returned, calmer than before. "Don't fight the curve." The road ahead bent sharply to the left, a turn that hadn't been on my map. I slowed, heart pounding, but my hands didn't feel fully in control anymore. The steering wheel tugged gently, insistently, guiding me into the bend. As I rounded it, my headlights revealed something impossible. Fresh tire marks, my tire marks, leading into the curve from the opposite direction, as if I'd already driven this road and come back. My radio crackled again, static forming a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. In the noise, I heard whispers layered together, dozens of voices overlapping. "They all learn," they murmured. A reflective sign flashed past my window too quickly to read, but I caught the shape of it in the mirror. It wasn't warning of a turn. It was pointing back the way I came. The road straightened again, but the sense of relief never came. Instead, the forest pressed closer, trees crowding the shoulder as if the world were narrowing its focus onto me alone. I checked the clock on the dashboard. 2:17 a.m. It stayed that way. Minutes passed, maybe longer, but the numbers never changed. My phone showed the same time. The radio display flickered, then matched it exactly. It felt like the night had decided to stop moving forward. The voice spoke again, closer now. You keep time. We keep travelers. I felt a vibration under my feet, stronger this time. The asphalt rippled subtly, like something massive shifting beneath a thin layer of skin. Cracks formed ahead, spreading in branching patterns that glowed faintly yellow, mirroring the center line. I slammed the brakes, but the van didn't stop right away. It slowed reluctantly, like the road itself was resisting. Outside the windshield, the cracks widened, opening just enough to reveal darkness below. Deep, endless breathing. From somewhere beneath the road came a sound like a sigh of satisfaction. You hear us now, the voice said, and that means you're almost ready. I forced the van into reverse. The tires spun uselessly, kicking up snow that immediately vanished into the dark. The cracks in the road pulsed once, like a slow heartbeat, then stilled. The center line straightened, pretending nothing had happened. You don't go backward, the voice said gently. That hurts. Pain lanced through my skull, sharp and sudden, as if someone had pressed thumbs behind my eyes. I cried out, slamming the van into park. The pain eased instantly, replaced by a heavy calm that scared me more than the fear had. The forest changed then. Between the trees, shapes appeared, vehicles half sunken into snow, their doors open, interiors dark. A pickup truck, a sedan, a delivery van just like mine, logo faded but familiar. I recognized the number stenciled on the side. It was my route number. My chest tightened. These weren't abandoned. They were placed, lined neatly along the road, like offerings. I noticed footprints leading from each vehicle to the asphalt, and none leading back. The voice lowered, almost proud. They listened. The van's engine idled steadily, waiting for my next mistake. The radio clicked on again, but this time it wasn't static. It was music, soft, old, warped like it had been played underwater. A lullaby my grandmother used to hum when I was a kid. My throat tightened before I even realized why. You know this road, the voice whispered. The asphalt ahead smoothed itself, cracks sealing as if they'd never existed. Fresh yellow paint bled across the surface, forming words instead of lines. Stay straight. My hands moved without permission, easing the van forward. Every instinct told me to run, to abandon the vehicle and disappear into the trees. But I knew, somehow, the forest was worse. The road wanted me. The forest was just where leftovers went. As I drove, faces appeared in the snowbanks, pressed from beneath, mouths open in silent screams, eyes tracking the van as it passed. They faded quickly, like impressions made in powder. My phone vibrated again. No message this time. Just a countdown timer. 00:59, 00:58. The voice sighed contentedly. 1 minute until you belong. The countdown ticked lower as the van rolled forward, each second echoing louder in my head than the last. I tried to pray, but the words tangled and slipped away, like the road was swallowing even my thoughts. The lullaby on the radio grew clearer, richer, as if someone were humming it right behind me. At 0:20, the road dipped sharply. My stomach lifted as the van descended into a shallow valley where the trees opened up into a wide, frozen clearing. In the center stood a long stretch of unmarked asphalt, darker than the rest, smooth and untouched by snow. Shapes waited there. They looked like people at first, standing in a loose line, facing the road. But their outlines wavered, edges blurring like heat distortion. As I got closer, I realized they were fused to the asphalt from the knees down, bodies rising straight out of the road itself. Their mouths moved in perfect sync with the voice. Almost home. The timer hit 0005. The steering wheel locked in place, jerking the van toward the clearing. I screamed, fighting it with everything I had, muscles burning, vision tunneling. At 0001, something inside me snapped. I let go. The moment I stopped fighting, the pressure vanished. The van coasted to a gentle stop at the edge of the clearing. The timer hit 0000 and disappeared. The radio fell silent. Even the engine shut itself off, leaving me in a stillness so complete it rang in my ears. The figures sank back into the asphalt, their forms dissolving as the road smoothed over them. The dark patch faded, blending seamlessly with the rest of the surface. You learned, the voice said. No longer layered, now singular, calm, almost kind. You listened. The headlights flickered once, then revealed something I hadn't seen before. A road sign, fresh, clean, reflective, route accepted. An arrow pointed straight ahead. My phone buzzed with a final message. Deliveries complete. The van doors unlocked. The engine restarted. I drove forward slowly, afraid to test whatever fragile mercy I'd been given. The forest thinned. Snow stopped falling. Dawn bled pale gray into the sky. By sunrise, I was on a real highway. The company let me go a week later. Said my route number no longer existed. But sometimes, when I'm driving at night, my radio hums that lullaby again, and the road feels like it's listening. I tried to forget what happened by building a quieter life. I took a warehouse job. Day shifts only. No driving longer than 15 minutes at a time. For months, things felt normal again. Too normal. Like the calm you get before remembering something you promised yourself you wouldn't. Then the emails started. They came from an address made of numbers, no subject line, always arriving at exactly 2:17 a.m. I never opened them at first. I didn't have to. The preview text was always the same. Route update available. One night, curiosity beat fear. I clicked. Inside was a simple map. No city names, no landmarks. Just a single road highlighted in yellow, stretching endlessly forward. At the bottom of the screen, a message blinked patiently. Compliance noted. New assignment pending. That same night, my radio turned on by itself while I slept. The lullaby filled my apartment softly, tenderly, like it belonged there. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing something important. The road hadn't let me go. It had promoted me. Outside, somewhere far away, I felt asphalt stretch. And listen, last week, a truck jackknifed on a back road outside town. I know because I felt it before the news broke. A sudden tightness in my chest, like a call going unanswered. When I drove past the scene later, traffic slowed to a crawl. Emergency lights flashed red and blue. And there I was, not my body, but my shape, painted faintly into the asphalt beneath the wreck, arms stretched forward, face turned toward the sky. The lines shimmered briefly, then faded as cars rolled over them. That night, my phone buzzed one final time. Good work, it said. You're part of the system now. I don't drive much anymore. I don't need to. Sometimes when someone takes a shortcut, they shouldn't. When a tired driver ignores that uneasy feeling and keeps going. I feel a gentle pull, like a thread tightening. The road doesn't need me behind the wheel. It needs me inside it. So if you ever feel a back road hum beneath your tires, slow down. It might be answering back. My name is Aaron Pike. And this happened when I was 29. During a solo night drive across rural Canada after a breakup that left me restless and stupidly confident. I'd packed my car with whatever I could fit and decided to drive west without a real plan. Backroads felt quieter than highways, less judgment, fewer memories. It was just after midnight when I took a 2-lane road that wasn't on my GPS. No warning sign, no barrier, just asphalt slipping away from the main route like it had always been there, waiting. At first, the drive was peaceful. Tall trees, cool air through a cracked window. Then I noticed the headlights behind me, far back, too far to be threatening. They stayed that way. No matter how fast I went, they never gained. When I slowed, they didn't close the gap. Just 2 steady white points floating in the darkness, perfectly centered in my rearview mirror. I told myself it was coincidence. Then I pulled over, and the headlights stopped too, without a single brake light. I waited a full minute before stepping out of the car. The night air felt heavier than it should have, pressing against my ears until everything sounded slightly muted. No engine noise, no wind. Even the insects were silent. The headlights remained on. I walked a few steps toward the road, squinting into the glare. That's when I realized something was wrong. There was no reflection, no chrome, no windshield, no outline of a car at all. Just 2 headlights suspended at the correct height, shining steadily as if mounted on something invisible. "Hello?" I called out, hating how small my voice sounded. The lights dimmed slightly. Then they blinked. Not together, one after the other, like eyes. A chill crawled up my spine as the beams tilted inward, focusing directly on me. The gravel beneath my feet crunched behind me. Slow, deliberate steps. But when I turned, the road was empty. The headlights flickered once, then drifted closer without moving forward, the distance between us shrinking in a way that made my stomach drop. I ran back to the car, slamming the door and locking it. As I pulled away, the headlights slipped back into place behind me. Patient, watching, I drove faster than I should have. Hands tight on the wheel, eyes flicking between the road ahead and the mirror every few seconds. The headlights stayed perfectly centered, unwavering, like they were locked onto me. No sway, no bounce from the uneven road, just smooth, unnatural stability. I tried to lose them. I sped up until the engine whined in protest. The headlights didn't fall back. I slowed down suddenly, hoping they'd rush forward and reveal whatever was carrying them. They didn't. They maintained the exact same distance, as if the space between us was fixed. That's when the road signs started changing. Familiar warning signs, curves, speed limits were scratched out, replaced with symbols I didn't recognize. Long vertical lines, circles split down the middle. Each one reflected the headlights too brightly, burning into my eyes. My radio clicked on by itself. No static, no music. Just a low hum that matched the rhythm of my heartbeat. "You see us now," a voice murmured beneath the sound. So quiet, I almost missed it. The headlights flared brighter, and for the first time, I saw a shadow between them. Tall, too thin, running without moving its legs. The shadow grew clearer as the road narrowed, trees pressing closer until their branches scraped the sides of my car. The headlights weren't behind me anymore. They were level with my back seats. I felt it before I saw it. A pressure change inside the car, like something massive had leaned in close. The interior lights flickered, briefly illuminating the back seat. Nothing was there. But the seatbelt buckles rattled softly, chiming against one another like nervous teeth. The voice returned, closer now, layered with something wet and breathy. You shouldn't look back while we're learning you. My eyes burned with the urge to check the mirror again. I fought it, staring straight ahead as the road dipped sharply downhill. At the bottom of the slope, my headlights revealed a reflective sign stretched across the road. Not posted. Hung. It read, "Keep driving." As I passed beneath it, the temperature inside the car dropped instantly, breath fogging the windshield from the inside. The headlights surged forward, flooding the cabin with white light. And for a split second, my reflection in the rearview mirror smiled back at me. It wasn't my smile. I slammed the accelerator, panic overriding reason. The engine screamed as the car shot forward, tires skidding slightly on the uneven asphalt. The road straightened suddenly, opening into a long, empty stretch that felt more like a tunnel than a road. The trees on either side blurring into solid walls of black. The headlights fell back for the first time. Relief surged through me, short-lived and desperate. I laughed once, sharp and broken, telling myself it was finally over, that I'd imagined the rest. Then the laughter died in my throat. The headlights split apart. One drifted left, the other drifted right. They slid off the road entirely, hovering just beyond the tree line, pacing me from both sides. The forest lit up in flashes, revealing shapes between the trunks, pale limbs, bent silhouettes, faces that vanished the moment I tried to focus on them. The voice whispered from everywhere at once, "We don't need the road anymore." My dashboard lights dimmed. The speedometer needle dropped to 0. I was still moving. The road beneath me was no longer asphalt. It was smooth, dark, and warm. The car slowed on its own, rolling to a gentle stop in the middle of the road. The engine cut out. The silence that followed was crushing, like the world had leaned in too close. The headlights floated forward. Not fast, not threatening. Curious. They stopped just beyond the hood, beams lowering until they illuminated the ground directly in front of my car. The surface rippled faintly, responding to the light like skin reacting to touch. A shape rose where the beams met. It unfolded upward, joint by joint. Too tall to be human, too narrow to be anything else. Its surface reflected the headlights perfectly, as if it were made of polished bone and shadow. "You carry us well," it said, voice smooth now, satisfied. "You look when told, you run when told." The driver's side door clicked, unlocked. My hands wouldn't move, my body wouldn't respond. I felt the certainty settle in. Heavy, absolute. This wasn't a chase, it was a test. And I was reaching the part where answers were expected. I don't remember deciding to step out of the car. I only remember the cold night air touching my face and the door closing softly behind me, like it was sealing a choice I'd already made. The headlights drifted backward, giving me space, illuminating the road ahead instead of me. The thing stood taller now, its shape stabilizing, learning. Where its face should have been, there was only a smooth curve, interrupted by two shallow impressions. Suggestions of eyes rather than eyes themselves. It leaned forward. The ground beneath my feet pulsed once, sending a vibration up my legs and into my chest. Images flooded my head, countless roads, countless cars, endless nights like this one. People running, people staring, people freezing when the lights found them. "You noticed," it said. "That's why you're here." Behind it, more headlights appeared in the distance. Dozens, hundreds, all floating, all watching. I realized then what terrified me most. This thing wasn't hunting. It was collecting reactions. Fear, curiosity, recognition. And I had given it everything it wanted. The headlights behind me surged forward suddenly, rushing past on both sides without touching me. As they passed, I felt memories tear loose, moments of my life unraveling, stripped of warmth and meaning, reduced to raw sensation. Fear sharpened, wonder dulled. The entity straightened. "You're not staying," it said, almost disappointed. "But you'll help us find the others." The road shuddered violently, and the headlights collapsed inward, folding into a single blinding flash. I screamed as the light swallowed everything. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my car, engine running, radio playing softly, dawn bleeding pink into the sky. I was parked on the shoulder of a normal highway, traffic rushing past like nothing had happened. My phone buzzed with missed calls. Hours had passed. I laughed, I cried, I drove away. But now, whenever I drive at night, something has changed. I don't just see headlights anymore. I feel them noticing me back. And sometimes, in my mirror, they hesitate. Like they remember me too. I tried to return to a normal routine, but the world felt slightly out of sync, like I was always a second behind everything else. Streetlights seemed brighter than before. Reflections lingered too long in windows. And headlights. Headlights were the worst. Every night, drive became a quiet test of my nerves. Cars behind me would slow down, speed up, then fall back again, and my chest would tighten until I could breathe only after they turned away. I stopped checking my mirrors so often, afraid of what I might confirm. Then the calls started. No number, no sound. Just my phone lighting up with the screen glowing white, even when powered off. When I touched it, the glass felt warm. One night, while stopped at a red light, I noticed my reflection in the windshield. The street behind me was empty, but in the reflection, two faint points of light hovered where no car stood. They blinked. A memory surfaced that wasn't mine, countless drivers slowing, noticing, wondering. The same moment, repeating forever. That's when I understood. I hadn't escaped. I'd been marked as familiar. Last night, I was driving home just before midnight when I saw them again. Two headlights stopped on a side road, angled slightly toward the intersection. I slowed without thinking, heart pounding, every instinct screaming not to look too closely. They didn't move. They waited. For a moment, I felt the same pull I had felt before, that strange invitation wrapped in fear. Then something else surfaced, a quiet recognition, not curiosity, not panic, understanding. I drove past without stopping. In the mirror, the headlights dimmed, their glow fading like disappointment. For the first time, they didn't follow. But I know better than to believe it's over. Some nights, when traffic thins and the roads stretch empty and long, I feel the air shift. I feel that pause, when something is deciding whether I'm worth noticing again. So if you ever see headlights that don't quite make sense, don't stop, don't stare, and whatever you do, don't let them learn you. Because once they do, they never forget. My name is Daniel Rourke, and this happened when I was 36, while working as a rural internet line inspector in northern Canada. My job took me to places most maps barely acknowledged: dirt roads, forgotten lanes, stretches where houses were miles apart and neighbors didn't ask questions. That afternoon, my assignment was simple. Check a reported signal interference along a back road marked only as County Line 12. No address, no service number, just a red pin dropped in the middle of nowhere. I noticed the house before I saw the road. It sat too close to the trees, pressed right up against the forest edge like it had been placed there after everything else grew. Old siding, dark windows, no mailbox, no driveway, just flattened grass leading up to the front steps. My GPS kept recalculating, spinning uselessly. When I parked, my phone lost signal completely. That's when I realized something unsettling. The house didn't appear on any map, and yet my work order listed it clearly. Service call active. Do not leave until confirmed. I knocked on the door twice. The sound felt wrong, dull, like knocking on something hollow that didn't want to echo. I waited, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement inside. Just a faint electrical hum that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. I checked the modem box on the side of the house. Brand new, installed recently. That alone didn't make sense. No address, no listing, yet fully connected infrastructure. The door opened on its own, slowly, carefully. Inside, the house was spotless, but empty. No furniture, no pictures. Just clean floors and bare walls painted in off-white that hurt my eyes if I stared too long. The air was warmer inside, thick and stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. "Hello?" I called. My voice came back to me a second later, delayed, slightly deeper. From somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked, then another. The door behind me clicked shut. My phone buzzed in my pocket. One new notification. Signal detected. Please proceed inside. And suddenly, I understood why no one had left this place angry. They hadn't left at all. I froze, staring at my phone, debating whether to run or stay. The house seemed to pulse around me, walls almost breathing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The hum in the air grew louder, vibrating through the soles of my boots. Each floorboard creak upstairs was deliberate, a countdown I couldn't read yet. I decided to move. Slowly, the interior smelled faintly metallic, like electricity and rust combined. I stepped toward the staircase, hand hovering over the railing. My reflection in a nearby window startled me. My eyes were darker than usual. My face stretched just slightly, like the house had already begun examining me. As I ascended the stairs, the creaking followed me. Not random, not mechanical. It was a rhythm, matching the hum in my ears, syncing with my pulse. I realized the house wasn't just a building, it was a presence. It was aware, waiting, learning. At the top, a door appeared I hadn't noticed before. Black, matte, no handle, no keyhole. The hum seemed to concentrate there. I felt its pull, magnetic, undeniable. I reached out. The moment my fingers touched the black door, the hum intensified and the air grew thick. My lungs burned. A whisper echoed through the hallway, soft, melodic, and unplaceable. "Welcome, observer," it repeated, layering over itself until the walls seemed to vibrate with voice. The door slid open silently. Beyond was a room, but not a normal room. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, fading into darkness. The floor shifted subtly beneath my feet, rippling like water frozen mid-motion. Shadows pooled along the walls, taking shapes that weren't human, but almost were. Twisting forms that leaned in, as if peering. A single object rested in the center, a desk. On it, my phone, glowing. On the screen, a live feed of me entering the house. I realized the camera angles weren't mine, no cameras anywhere. The house had created them. Then I saw movement in the corners. Tiny at first, barely perceptible. They watched me, waited, learned. And the whispers grew louder, more urgent. "Stay, stay, stay." I wanted to run, but the floor shifted again, subtly nudging me closer to the desk. The house didn't let visitors choose. I leaned over the desk, staring at the phone. The live feed didn't just show me. It showed the house itself, rooms I hadn't seen, hallways stretching into impossible darkness. Shadows moved within the walls, pausing and observing. I felt exposed, studied, like a specimen in a gallery I didn't know I'd entered. The hum pulsed faster, vibrating through my teeth, through my skull. Suddenly, the room shifted. The ceiling stretched higher, the floor expanded beneath me, and the walls warped inward, breathing like lungs. My legs shook as I stumbled back, but the floor's subtle pull nudged me forward again. I felt the house's intent. It wanted me in the center, under the phone, under its gaze. I realized it wasn't just a building, it was a predator. The hum became a voice, layered and chilling. We remember all who enter. We learn their fears. We keep them safe, forever. My chest tightened. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But the house made running impossible. The phone vibrated, displaying new notifications, each a single word. Observe, move, sit, stand. I obeyed without thinking, each action instinctively synced with the pulses from the floor. My reflection appeared in the walls, distorted and twitching unnaturally. Every movement I made was mirrored, exaggerated, and judged by the house. A door appeared at the far end of the room, impossible in placement, yet solid. I approached it slowly, every step mirrored by subtle floor vibrations. When I touched the handle, I felt a jolt of static electricity run through me, like the house was testing my nerve, measuring my reaction. I opened the door. Beyond was another hallway, longer than physics allowed, lined with doors that hummed softly, each vibrating in response to my presence. From behind, a whisper. "We've known you since the road brought you here. Your fear is ours to hold." I realized then that leaving wasn't an option. This place didn't just exist in space. It existed in patience, in time. And it would wait for me. Forever, I forced myself to keep moving down the endless hallway. Each door I passed whispered my name or a distorted version of it. My chest burned and my legs ached, but the floor's subtle pulses guided me forward as if it had a will of its own. Shadows shifted along the walls, leaning toward me without breaking physical laws. I could feel them, their awareness brushing against my mind. At the end of the corridor, one door glowed faintly, a soft amber light bleeding from its edges. The hum intensified, now layered with a melodic tone that tugged at my memory, a lullaby I couldn't place. I approached, heart hammering, every step echoing unnaturally loud in the stretched hallway. The door opened before I touched it, revealing a room empty except for a single chair facing a wall. On the wall, my reflection appeared. Not just me, but every choice I'd ever made, every fear I'd ever felt, projected and magnified. The house had been cataloging me, studying me for some unknown purpose. It whispered again, low and patient. "Sit and see what you brought." I hesitated, but the pull from the room was irresistible. My legs moved on their own, stepping into the amber glow. The chair seemed ordinary, yet as I sat, the floor vibrated beneath me like a heartbeat, syncing with my own. The reflection on the wall rippled, and suddenly I was no longer just watching. It was showing me possibilities, versions of myself that hadn't existed, shadows of decisions I never made. The hum became a voice, now layered in dozens of tones. "We see all. We know all. You are part of us now, yet you are not. Learn." The air thickened, almost liquid in texture, pressing against my skin. The walls leaned closer, enclosing me, and the reflection shifted, replacing my face with countless faceless forms, each one silent, each one observing. I wanted to leave, to flee, but the hallway outside had vanished. Only the chair, the reflection, and the house remained. It had me exactly where it wanted me, trapped between fear and fascination, powerless yet aware. Time lost meaning. Minutes stretched into hours, hours into days. I couldn't tell. The reflection kept changing, showing lives I hadn't lived, fears I hadn't felt, choices I hadn't made. Every flicker of the image whispered possibilities, warnings, and promises I didn't understand. The chair beneath me pulsed in rhythm with the house, reminding me constantly that I was not a visitor. I was an exhibit. The hum deepened, vibrating through my chest, through my skull. It became words I could feel rather than hear. Observe, learn, adapt, belong. I tried to fight it, to scream, to tear myself away. But every attempt was like moving through thick water. The room absorbed my resistance, folding it into the reflection until I could barely remember why I wanted to leave. Then, in a brief silence, the reflection blinked. And for a single instant, I saw the door to the hallway, slightly ajar. A sliver of light from the world outside. The house seemed to notice my hope and smiled, subtly, impossibly, through the way the walls warped. I realized leaving would require more than strength. It would require surrender. Eventually, I rose, driven by instinct rather than choice. The chair let me go, releasing me like a teacher letting a student graduate. Yet the floor remained alive beneath my feet, guiding each step. I walked toward the faint light. The reflection shimmered one last time, displaying my face. Not as it was, but as the house had learned it to be. Fearful, observant, changed. I stepped into the hallway. The endless corridor returned, yet different, calmer. The shadows retreated slightly. The hum softened. I felt the house's awareness, like a presence at my shoulder, always watching, always cataloging. When I reached the front door, I hesitated, looking back at the impossibly tall, warped interior, feeling the pull of its patience. Outside, dawn was breaking. Trees swayed normally. Birds called. The road seemed ordinary. My phone worked. Maps functioned. But I know the house remembers me. It always will. And if I ever wander back to that county line, I will feel its pull again. Some houses are just walls and roofs. This one isn't. It's waiting. My name is Lena Murphy, and this happened during a summer camping trip in northern Canada when I was 24. My friends and I had chosen a remote site along a back road we'd found in an old forum, a place locals barely mentioned. No cell service, no other campers for miles. Just dense forest and a single, winding dirt path that disappeared into the trees. The first night was peaceful. A small fire, roasted marshmallows, and laughter bouncing between the pines. Then we noticed it. A light across the clearing. Flickering, distant, too steady for a firefly, too small for a flashlight. Probably another group, my friend said, shrugging. But it didn't move, it just hovered there, barely visible through the mist curling around the tree line. By the time we went to bed, the light was gone. Or so we thought. I woke before dawn to a cold breeze that didn't make sense. The fire was still smoldering, but the air felt heavier. I stepped out of the tent, trying to see the tree line. That's when I noticed my friends were gone. Not asleep. Gone. No footprints, no sound. Just their empty tents flapping softly in the wind. My heart pounded. I shouted their names, voice swallowed by the forest. No response. Then I saw it again. The faint light. Closer this time, bobbing slowly among the trees. It wasn't like any flashlight I'd seen. No beam, no source, just a glowing dot, pulsating like it had a heartbeat. Something about it drew me in. Against my better judgment, I started walking toward it. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the forest itself resisted my movement. By the time I reached the edge of the clearing, the light vanished. But my friends, they hadn't. I ran back to the tents, panic clawing at me. The smell of damp earth and smoke filled the air, but there was no sign of my friends. Only their personal items, backpacks, water bottles, scattered in strange patterns, as if moved deliberately. I grabbed a flashlight from one of the tents, and the beam cut a thin slice through the fog. Then I saw them, my friends' shadows, standing still at the forest's edge, just beyond the trees. But something was wrong. They didn't move naturally. Their heads tilted too far, limbs slightly twisted, frozen in poses that didn't make sense. When I shouted, their shadows twitched, but their mouths didn't open. The glowing light appeared again, closer this time, hovering between the trees. My friends stepped toward it, but I could see it wasn't them moving. It was the light guiding them. They were walking into the forest like puppets, eyes blank, and I felt powerless to stop it. Something in me screamed that if they disappeared completely, I might be next. I sprinted after them, shouting their names. My voice echoed, bouncing against the trees. But the shadows didn't respond. The ground beneath my feet was uneven, roots tripping me, yet I pressed on, desperate. The light pulsed ahead, moving slowly, almost intentionally, leading my friends deeper into the forest. The trees grew denser, branches scraping my arms and face. The mist thickened, cold and wet, clinging to my clothes. Each step made the sound of leaves crunching too loud, too final. Then I noticed movement in the periphery, small, quick flashes between the trees, like the forest itself was alive, watching. When I finally reached the edge of a small clearing, the light vanished. My friends were gone. No shadows, no whispers, nothing. Just the oppressive silence of a forest that didn't want witnesses. My chest heaved, adrenaline pumping, but I knew I wasn't alone. From somewhere above, the faint pulse of the light returned, hovering silently, as if assessing me now. I stopped, trying to catch my breath, heart hammering. The forest seemed to have grown larger around me. Every tree was thicker, taller, and the mist clung tighter to the ground. The light hovered ahead, just beyond a cluster of gnarled oaks. And I realized it wasn't a flashlight. It was something else. Alive, aware, moving with intention. I called out again, but this time my voice faltered. There was a whisper, faint but unmistakable. You shouldn't be here. The words seemed to come from every direction at once, bouncing off unseen walls of fog. My hands shook as I held the flashlight higher. The ground beneath my feet rippled slightly, like the forest itself was responding to my presence. Then, I saw them again, my friends, but not as I remembered. Their faces were pale, frozen in expressions of awe and terror. They didn't see me. Their gaze was fixed on the light, drawn deeper into the forest, step by step. I realized I was running out of time. I ran after them. Adrenaline surging, branches whipping at my face and arms. The forest seemed endless now, paths twisting unnaturally, leading me in circles. The light floated ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat, and every step I took made the shadows around me tremble. I could feel the forest observing me, judging me, testing my resolve. Suddenly, a sound, soft, almost musical like chimes, echoed between the trees. My friends stopped. The light hovered above them, and for a moment, I thought they might respond to me. But their bodies remained rigid, faces blank, and they took another step forward, drawn irresistibly toward the source. I stumbled into a shallow ditch, losing sight of them. The light turned sharply, moving toward me this time. My stomach sank. I realized the forest didn't just want my friends, it wanted me too. I had to decide: chase blindly or retreat and survive. I forced myself to push forward, ignoring the ache in my legs and the panic in my chest. The light floated just ahead, like a lure, bobbing slowly between the trees. I could see glimpses of my friends through the mist, their movements unnaturally smooth, almost gliding over the forest floor. Their eyes were blank, unseeing, yet fixed on the light. The deeper I went, the forest changed. Trees leaned inward, branches forming arches that blocked the sky. The mist thickened until it clung to my skin like a living thing. I heard whispers all around me, voices speaking in unrecognizable tones, yet I felt them addressing me personally. You will join them, or leave. I stumbled into a small clearing. The light hovered over a shallow depression in the earth, and for a brief second, I saw shadows moving inside it, writhing as if something waited below. My friend stopped at the edge, hands reaching toward it, compelled. I knew if I didn't act fast, they would disappear completely. I screamed their names, my voice raw, echoing off the trees. The light flickered in response, pulsing brighter, faster. The shadows inside the depression writhed higher, forming shapes that almost resembled faces, twisted, half-human, watching. My friend stepped forward, and I lunged, grabbing one by the arm. For a second, I thought I could pull them back, but it was like trying to grasp smoke. The light reacted violently, expanding and contracting like a living heartbeat. My friend's body stiffened. Their heads turned toward me, expressionless. Then they continued forward, moving as if controlled by some unseen force. I felt the forest shift beneath my feet. Branches scratched at my arms, roots tried to trip me, but I dragged them backward with all my strength. The light pulsed one final time, then receded into the tree line, leaving the clearing empty. My friends gone, the forest silent. I sank to my knees, chest heaving. Somehow, I had survived. But the emptiness around me was alive with watching. The forest was silent after that. My friends were gone, vanished completely. But I couldn't shake the feeling that they were still there, just out of sight. The light had disappeared, but the air remained thick, charged with a presence I couldn't see. Every shadow seemed heavier, every rustle of leaves sharper. I realized I wasn't alone. I stumbled back along the path, trying to mark landmarks, but the forest had changed. Trees shifted subtly, paths twisted, and the mist clung to everything. I began to hear whispers again, but now they were distant, like echoes bouncing off unseen walls. We will wait. You will return. We remember. By the time I reached the dirt road, sunlight was breaking through the canopy. My heart still raced. The forest behind me seemed ordinary again, quiet, harmless. But I knew better. Something had watched, tested, and now remembered me. And somewhere deep inside, I knew that light was still out there, waiting. I never returned to that back road, never spoke of it in detail. But the memory lingers. At night, I sometimes see a faint glow outside my window, a heartbeat in the darkness. The forest didn't just take my friends, it marked me, leaving a memory embedded in my mind. Years later, I drove past another remote trail while traveling for work. The trees leaned slightly, and the air was heavier. For a split second, I thought I saw that same faint light hovering between the branches, bobbing slowly, patiently. My stomach turned cold. I've learned one thing. Some places are not just isolated. They are alive, aware, and patient. They take what they want, and they remember who notices. If you ever see a faint light hovering along a lonely back road in the forest, don't follow it. Don't call out. Don't blink. Because once it knows you, it never forgets. My name is Ethan Cole, and this happened when I was 28, driving along a remote back road in northern Canada late one rainy October night. I was returning from a work conference. Headlights cutting through sheets of rain, the road barely visible under puddles and mist. The forest pressed close on both sides, dark and silent except for the rhythmic drumming of rain on the roof of my car. That's when I saw him. A man standing at the edge of the road, thumb out, soaked to the bone. Old coat, hat pulled low, face obscured in shadow. He looked wrong. Not dangerous, just out of place. I slowed to a stop. He climbed in without a word, shaking water onto the floor mats. His presence filled the car, cold and silent. I tried to make conversation, but he didn't answer. Just stared straight ahead, his hands folded neatly in his lap. From that moment, I felt like the road itself had changed. We drove in silence. The man didn't speak. The rain intensified, pounding against the windshield, turning the road into a slick ribbon. Every mile felt heavier, longer. I tried asking where he needed to go. No response. I checked my mirrors. He didn't move. His face was still hidden under the brim of his hat, expressionless. Then I noticed something strange. Every passing road sign looked unfamiliar, distorted. The trees grew taller, denser, leaning inward, their branches scraping the roof of my car as if guiding me somewhere. The headlights reflected too many shadows. Something was following. I glanced at him. For the first time, his head turned, just slightly. I couldn't see his eyes, but I felt a weight, a stare so heavy it made my chest tighten. And in that instant, I realized I had never seen him on any maps, any forums, any hitchhiker reports. He didn't belong here. And I wasn't going to find out why, at least not alive. The road seemed endless, twisting unnaturally through the forest. Every bend revealed nothing but more darkness and rain. Yet I could feel a presence behind us, just outside the car. My pulse quickened. The man remained still, hands folded, hat low, as if he were a part of the night itself. I tried to break the silence again, asking if he was cold, hungry, or needed help. No response. I glanced at the passenger seat. His coat seemed darker than before, almost absorbing the light. I blinked, and for a second, his face was gone. Empty. Just shadow where his head should be. Panic surged. I tried to turn the car around, but the road bent impossibly, leading me deeper into the forest. The trees leaned closer, branches scraping the windows, and the rain seemed to fall in sheets, as if trying to hide something. The man's presence filled the cabin now. Heavy, waiting, watching. My hands gripped the steering wheel tight. I knew we weren't just driving. He was leading me somewhere. I turned sharply at a bend, trying to escape. But the road looped impossibly, back to the same spot where the man had first entered. My stomach churned. That's when I realized the forest wasn't normal. The shadows moved independently, stretching unnaturally, forming shapes that seemed to mimic the car, the trees, even my own reflection in the rearview mirror. The man's head lifted slightly, and I felt it, like a weight pressing into my mind. A whisper, almost inaudible. "You shouldn't be here." My hands trembled. The rain beat harder against the windshield, and the headlights flickered, casting strange silhouettes across the trees. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a halt, tires spinning in shallow puddles. The man leaned forward slightly, just enough to let me see him clearly, or almost clearly. His face, it was wrong. Too pale, features too sharp, eyes reflecting a void rather than life. I swallowed hard, heart hammering, and realized that getting out wasn't an option. I gripped the wheel and tried to focus, forcing my eyes on the road. The trees seemed to close in, branches scraping the roof and hood like skeletal fingers. The rain pounded harder, blurring the line between the road and the forest floor. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, yet my foot stayed on the pedal. Then he spoke. Not in words, not aloud, but in my mind. You will follow, or join them. My stomach dropped. I realized this wasn't a man. It had the shape of one, the mannerisms of one. But it was something else entirely. Something that existed between shadows and rain, feeding on fear, patience, and attention. Ahead, the road split into two indistinguishable paths, both twisting and bending as if mocking me. The man, or whatever he was, remained calm, silent, a presence that filled the cabin completely. My hands shook uncontrollably. I had to choose, but the choice didn't feel like mine. I swerved down one of the paths, heart hammering. The forest seemed alive, leaning, breathing, branches twisting unnaturally. The rain obscured everything, but I could sense movement in the darkness, shadows flitting just beyond my headlights. The man's presence was oppressive, and I realized with a chill that he knew every route, every option before I even moved. Then the car shook violently. Something slammed against the roof. I froze. The man's hat tilted up slightly, revealing nothing. A void where his face should have been, eyes blacker than night itself. And yet I felt him staring directly into my soul. The road split again, mist rolling across it like waves. I saw a faint light ahead, a small clearing, and an instinct told me it was the only escape. But the forest whispered, "You belong to us now." My foot trembled on the accelerator. There was no turning back. I floored the accelerator, tires skidding on the slick road as rain sprayed in every direction. The clearing ahead glimmered faintly, a pale golden light cutting through the mist like a promise of escape. My pulse raced, every nerve screaming. The man remained in his seat, impossibly still, a silent presence that chilled me more than the rain or darkness ever could. The forest seemed to fight me, branches snapping, roots rising from the ground as if alive. I glanced at him once, and for a brief second the void where his face should be split into dozens of tiny faces, each screaming silently. I jerked my eyes forward. Then the road straightened. The clearing grew closer. I could see the ground, uneven but solid. Relief surged, almost overwhelming. Yet I could feel it. He wasn't gone. He didn't leave. He waited, always aware, always patient. I realized survival wasn't about leaving the forest. It was about making it forget me. The clearing widened, and the rain began to lighten. I could see the edges, tree line thinning. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel, adrenaline surging. I risked a glance at him again. The void was gone, replaced by a pale, blank face, as though he had observed and adjusted. Waiting for the moment, I let my guard down. I didn't dare speak. The whispers returned, soft in my mind, repeating, "You can leave, but you will remember. Always." The light of the clearing grew warmer, almost inviting. I pressed forward, heart hammering, and finally, the trees parted. The road straightened, familiar pavement stretching ahead. He remained silent, watching. When I passed the edge of the forest, he wasn't there anymore. Just the wet road, the receding mist, and the lingering sense of being observed. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Even now, years later, I know he's still out there, waiting for the next driver on the lonely back road. I reached the highway, pavement slick but familiar, and exhaled shakily. The forest behind me was quiet now, almost ordinary. Yet the weight of his presence lingered in the car, like a shadow I couldn't shake. Every bump and puddle on the road reminded me that I had been somewhere that didn't obey normal rules. I checked the passenger seat. Empty. No hat, no coat. Only a faint chill in the air, like the memory of him remained. My hands trembled on the wheel, and I realized I couldn't tell anyone. Who would believe a man, or whatever he was, who could vanish and yet remain, lurking in your memory? I drove for hours, dawn creeping over the horizon, and the highway slowly returned to normal. But I never forgot the feeling of being observed, the whispering voice in my head, the eyes that weren't eyes watching me the whole way. Some back roads are just roads. Some are waiting. Years later, I drive past remote back roads when I travel for work. I avoid hitchhikers, avoid dark bends, avoid any mist rolling across the pavement. But sometimes, at night, when the rain falls hard and I'm alone on a forgotten road, I see it. A faint silhouette, a figure standing where no one should be, thumb out, waiting. I don't stop. I never call out. I don't blink. Because I know that presence doesn't just vanish, it marks you. It waits patiently, watching, cataloging, learning. And if it knows you, even a glimpse is enough to follow you forever, whispering in the dark. I learned the hard way that some roads aren't meant for the living alone. They're meant for testing patience, feeding fear, and marking those who wander too close. The forest, the road, the hitchhiker, they are all still out there. And they will remember you. My name is Claire Donovan, and this happened when I was 26. My friends and I rented a small, isolated cabin along a back road in northern Canada, deep in the pines. It was supposed to be a weekend escape from work, a few nights of silence and campfires. But the road there already felt wrong. Narrow, twisting, bordered by trees so close you could almost touch them from the car. The first night, the cabin seemed cozy. Wood walls, a small fireplace, and a view of the dense forest surrounding us. But as the sun set, the woods grew darker, almost unnatural, and a faint rustling came from beyond the trees. At first, we laughed it off. Animals, the wind. Then came the knocks. Light, almost tentative, on the cabin door. 3 knocks. Silence. No one else was on this road. No one else should have been here. I woke to the sound of branches scraping the windows. The cabin was silent otherwise. I checked the clock, 3:17 a.m., and tried to convince myself it was just the wind. But the knocks returned. Louder this time, more deliberate. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The forest was thick and unwelcoming, the trees towering over me, mist clinging to the undergrowth. Nothing moved, except for the shadows. They shifted oddly, as if the forest itself were breathing, watching. Then I heard it, a low whispering, barely audible, drifting from the tree line. My friends were asleep inside, oblivious. My heart pounded. I turned toward the path leading to the main road. Footprints, too large, uneven, leading straight toward the cabin. But there shouldn't have been anyone here. And that's when I saw them. Faint, glowing eyes among the trees, just above the ground. unblinking, fixed on me. I stumbled back inside, locking the door. But I knew the night had only just begun. I stayed awake the rest of the night, flashlight in hand, listening to the forest just beyond the cabin walls. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping branch made me flinch. The whispers returned intermittently, soft but insistent, as if speaking directly to me. I couldn't make out the words, but their tone carried a malicious curiosity. Morning brought no relief. The forest looked peaceful, serene almost, but the footprints remained, now circling the cabin in a strange, deliberate pattern. My friends didn't notice. They were brewing coffee, laughing, unaware of the oppressive presence just beyond the door. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was imagination, exhaustion, paranoia. But then I saw something through the window. A shadow that didn't belong to any tree, shifting unnaturally, moving with intent. It paused whenever I looked directly at it, then slipped between the trunks, vanishing into the mist. I realized, with a sinking feeling, that the forest wasn't empty. It was waiting, watching. That night, the forest became louder. The whispers grew more persistent, almost chanting, circling the cabin. I could hear faint tapping at the windows, footsteps crunching leaves outside, though no one was there. My friends were oblivious, laughing around the fireplace, and I didn't want to scare them. But fear gnawed at me relentlessly. I tried to distract myself by lighting a fire outside. But the moment the flames flickered against the darkness, shapes appeared among the trees. Tall, thin, impossibly still. Eyes reflecting the firelight, watching, unmoving yet undeniable. My breath caught. The knock started again, but this time on the roof. Heavy, deliberate, as if someone, or something, was pacing above us. My friends asked what I was doing, but I couldn't speak. I didn't want them to see. Yet I knew that whatever waited out there wasn't human. I realized the cabin was no longer a refuge. It was a trap, and we were the prey. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the cabin, every gust of wind through the trees, felt deliberate, as if the forest itself were breathing around us. I peeked through the curtains and saw them, tall, shadowy figures moving between the trees, circling closer with each minute. Their eyes glimmered faintly in the darkness, unblinking, hungry. I tried to warn my friends, but they laughed it off, thinking I was imagining things. I knew better. The forest wasn't ordinary. It had a presence, a consciousness. It was testing us, toying with us. The whispers grew louder, now almost intelligible. You will stay. You will join. Suddenly, a branch shattered against the side of the cabin. My friends flinched. I knew then that it wasn't just the trees. They were being watched, observed, and the watchers were no longer content to stay hidden. I grabbed a flashlight and moved outside, hoping to see the source, but the mist thickened instantly, swallowing everything in a ghostly gray haze. I stepped into the mist, flashlight shaking, every instinct screaming at me to retreat. The figures were closer now, moving unnaturally fast, slipping between trees like smoke. I could barely make out their forms, tall, thin, faceless, and yet fully aware of my presence. I called out, trying to seem brave, but the forest answered back with whispers, repeating my words mockingly, stretching them, warping them. The mist swirled, and I realized it wasn't just hiding them. It was alive, a barrier, shaping itself to control us. Suddenly, one of the figures emerged from the mist, stopping just a few meters away. Its eyes reflected the flashlight, but the shapes were wrong, elongated, impossible. It tilted its head, watching, waiting, patient. I stumbled back, tripping over a root, heart hammering. The cabin felt miles away. The forest had swallowed us, and I understood then. Escape wasn't guaranteed. Survival was a gamble. I scrambled back toward the cabin, heart hammering in my chest, flashlight barely cutting through the mist. The figures followed silently, gliding over the forest floor with unnatural grace. Every branch seemed to reach for me, snagging my coat, slowing my flight. The whispers grew louder, insistent, almost chanting my name. Inside the cabin, my friends were frozen, eyes wide, staring at the walls as if seeing something beyond human perception. The firelight flickered violently, casting the shadows across the room like living creatures. I slammed the door, locking it. But the pounding began. First on the walls, then the roof, then the windows, heavy and deliberate. One of the figures appeared at the window, impossibly tall, faceless, eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. I backed away, my body trembling. I knew the cabin wasn't safe, and yet the forest outside promised even worse. We were trapped between two horrors. One that wanted to watch, the other that wanted to take. The pounding stopped suddenly, replaced by silence. Thick, oppressive, suffocating. The forest waited. The figures had withdrawn slightly, lingering just beyond the windows, their glowing eyes tracking our every movement. My friends whispered questions I couldn't answer. I shook my head, too afraid to speak. Then came the scratching, soft, deliberate, moving across the floorboards as if the forest itself had seeped into the cabin. The firelight flickered one last time, illuminating something at the far corner. Shadows pressed unnaturally close together, forming shapes that were almost human, almost grotesque, but not quite. I realized the cabin had never been ours. It was part of the forest, a lure, a trap for those who wandered too close. The whispers returned, now clearer, chanting in unearthly harmony. Stay, join us, never leave. I backed into a corner, clutching the flashlight like a lifeline, knowing we weren't alone, and that the night had only begun to unfold its terror. Dawn never felt so cruel. The night stretched on endlessly, the fire reduced to glowing embers, flickering weakly. The mist outside was lighter now, but the forest remained alive, watching. I peeked through the window and saw them, tall, faceless shapes, motionless, yet somehow advancing slowly toward the cabin. My friends were pale, silent, their eyes hollow from exhaustion and fear. I knew then that the forest had claimed the night. It wasn't just shadows or tricks of the mind. It was something older, patient and relentless. The whispers now came in waves, surrounding us, pressing into our thoughts. You cannot leave. You belong here. Desperation clawed at me. I grabbed my coat and a flashlight, urging my friends to follow me. Every step outside felt like stepping into quicksand. The forest seemed to resist, branches snagging our clothing, roots tripping us. The clearing I had hoped for never appeared. We ran blindly, praying for the road, praying for escape. But the forest had learned our fear. Finally, after what felt like hours, the road appeared, wet and glistening in the pale morning light. We sprinted onto it, lungs burning, adrenaline surging. The forest behind us was silent, almost normal. Yet the shadows lingered at its edge, watching, waiting. We didn't stop until we reached civilization. And even then, the fear didn't leave. The whispers, the scratching, the glowing eyes, they were etched into my memory forever. My friends avoided that road afterward, and I never returned. Sometimes, late at night, I dream of the cabin, the forest, and those faceless watchers. I know they're still there, waiting for the next group of wanderers to stumble into their domain. Some roads, some forests, are never empty. They're just patient. We escaped physically, but the forest claimed a piece of us that night, and it remembers.